Conversation of President Tinubu's performance in 2 years. Tonight, we brought in alliances to defense. A few days ago, at an event to mark 2 years of the Renewed Hope agenda, the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, reeled out statistics indicating an improvement of security across the country. Be that as it may, the reality on ground is still that of extreme cautiousness and sometimes a call for self-defense. This we have seen in some parts of the north, the east, and even the west. Well, tonight, joining me to dissect this is the Chairman, House Committee on Defense, Honorable Babajimi Benson. He joins us live in the studio. Good to have you join us. Good evening.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you are the Chairman of the House Committee on Defense, which means that you have privileged information on security that most Nigerians don't. And it's from that point of view, I would say you should, give us your own appraisal and assessment of this administration in the last 2 years on defense and security.
Thank you very much for having me. Like I said earlier, this studio is fantastic.
Thank you.
I'll never go to your Abuja studio anymore.
No problem. Just always travel down to Lagos when we have you.
That's right. Anyway, I must commend this administration. You know, security is in two folds. You talk about the non-kinetic and the kinetic. The non-kinetic is what you have to do to ensure that your citizens are not available to be hoodwinked by ideology and people who train them to do bad things. Now, this administration has been very, very strong in the non-kinetic approach. It's this administration that has recently passed we've passed the tax bill. I'm sure it's going to be assented to by Mr. President in the next couple of days. And for me, that is the greatest achievement of this administration. The tax bill seeks to get our youths off the streets. It seeks to expand the scope of businesses. It seeks to create gainful employment for our youths. It seeks to also find a very creative way of funding the armed forces. I'm telling you, if that bill is implemented 100%, Nigeria will see a turn for the better. So that's on the non-kinetic, right? Also the non-kinetic, Mr. President has done a lot to ensure that state police is put on the front burner, right? Furthermore, the local government autonomy, it's also a non-kinetic way of ensuring that local government gets the dues that belong to it. And by so doing, they will bring development to the last mile. I remember the late General Lagbaja. He used to complain that anytime they neutralize or they arrest Boko Haram or these terrorists, they find it difficult to hand them over to a local government. Now, the day the Supreme Court passed that judgment, he called me and he was celebrating, you know. But how far has that local government autonomy been entrenched? Yes, we need the governors to also come to the table and ensure that the last mile gets adequate development. One of the things that is also in the tax bill is that local governments who generate money will keep 30% from the consumption. Yes, it means local government autonomy is back in its full strength. And those local governments will be able to re-radicalize, will be able to employ, will be able to provide medical facilities, schools. Young people will be able to do LPOs and contracts. So it has its own ecosystem. And that is what this administration has done. Now imagine if that is implemented in its fullest of forces, right? 80% of youth will be gainfully employed, will be happy to go and do businesses, and hope will be restored. Yes, that's on the non-kinetic. When it comes to the kinetic, I don't think any government has bought as much platform for the Air Force as this administration has done. We're expecting about 49 attack helicopters, right? I remember in Turkey, they had this same problem we had. What Turkey simply did was they dominated the skies. Now this administration is buying equipment that will ensure that the skies are dominated. So anywhere they see funny movements, right, in the Sahel or within, they know what to do. Yes, but as we speak now, we're building blocks to ensuring that we get that air power capacity to be able to dominate the skies.
So let's focus more on the kinetic, because that's what a lot of Nigerians appraise. Because even some of the non-kinetic approach, Nigerians do have a problem with. But you have talked about one, state policing, and then how much the government has spent on defense. And I just want to, let's look at it from the budgetary allocation standpoint, which is really high. The president has moved from 1.25 trillion in 2023 to 3.25 trillion in 2024, and now to 4.91 trillion in 2025. That's a whole lot. That's a lot of increase. But one would also expect that to reflect in the national security, but that doesn't seem to be.
Should I be truthful
what
to
we're
you?
Seeing.
Yes. The standard worldwide is that you spend 5% of your GDP on security. Spend 5 trillion, spend 10 trillion. It's not a lot of money when it comes to acquiring of assets, critical assets to fight, right? Even if you had the money, it's not available. Those things are not available to buy off the shelf, right? We need to increase our spending. It's so hard for Nigerians to understand this, right? Because I know the shoe pinches, right? But the global benchmark is that you spend 5% of your GDP on protecting your country. Yes, Section 4 of the Constitution says the number of paramount duty of government is, but it doesn't come cheap. So when we hear 4 trillion, 5 trillion, 6 trillion, if you remove the cost of personnel, we pay our military. The military profession is the only profession whereby they are buried. It's the military that buries them. The pen, the uniform they wear, everything is funded strictly from the purse of the government, right? If you have 250,000 armed forces, if you times that by everything they get, everything is taken away from the budget. So the capital is there. We're struggling. We can do better. But when we hear trillions and trillions, we believe it's all going to procurement of infrastructure. It's not. So Mr. President has found a fantastic way of funding the military off the balance sheets. Yes, once he signs the tax reform bill, yes, it will be a real game changer for the security apparatus in Nigeria, and I don't think the terrorists will have it very easy anymore, because procurements will be fast-tracked and there will be cash backing to ensure that we get what we want as soon as possible. Nigeria has been a very great country. The arsenal we're enjoying back there were bought by, during the military, the Shagari era. But we had two big wars. We had wars in Liberia and in Sierra Leone. Nigeria liberated those countries and used all its assets to fight those wars, right? Nigeria is the only country that did not remain in those countries to exploit them. Normally, if you do those wars, you make an economy out of it and you make your money back. Nigeria didn't do that. So Nigeria came back empty. So we've had to ramp up on platforms, on infrastructure.
And I'm sure we get that, but we've made gains in some areas, especially in places like Plateau, Borno. At some point there were gains in Northwest, we had gains. But the challenge again is that once we have gains, it looks like there is no effort to ensure that we consolidate those gains, and then we see reversals. And so that's where a lot of people are also having challenges. We've seen the Borno State Governor come out directly to say to the defense architecture, say, look, you have to change your strategy. The northern governors also said the same thing. But my question really is, beyond, and the president has said that, beyond changing strategies, a lot of people want to see the president put his foot down to say, I'm giving you a timeline, or I'm giving you a deadline, and with which to deal with this challenge, to decimate these terrorists to a large extent. But we have not seen that very bold declaration.
If you look at the changing theater, the Northwest is relatively calm now. It used to be the battleground. Like you rightly said, the Northeast is where the issues are. The Northeast is, I hear Maiduguri is like 3 times the size of Belgium, right? Our guys need the tools of trade to be able to appropriately cover the scope And like I said, they're expecting about 49 platforms that will help reduce the infrastructural gap or problems they have. Those are coming, right? The manpower, yes, that's why I always talk about state police as well. You know, I'm a big fan of it because it's going to employ people and the job will be cut out for them. They're going to protect each territories they cover. So I believe that we're building blocks. We're not perfect. And the biggest problem we have, if you know about the Sahel region, France has, they're out of the place, right? So there are unintended consequences, right? So that place is porous and it leaves the jihadists, it gives them a free flow into wherever they want to go, you know, and these guys are indoctrinated with religion, right? So it's a bit difficult, but our troops are punching above their weights. If you look at the papers today or the intel I have, they're doing a very great job. A lot of the terrorist kingpins have been neutralized in the last couple of days. So we'll win the war, but it's our armed forces. It's Nigeria at war. Yes, we all need to support and pray, and there has to be an all-society approach in ensuring that this insurgency is put to a logical end. But I'm sure that we'll win the war.
So you mentioned the Sahel region, and of course, even the defense chiefs have come out to say that's one of the problems. We've had security experts also saying that we have, again, porous borders. But that also speaks to the diplomatic side of security, because one of the very first visits that the former president made, President Buhari, when he took office, was to that area, Niger, and so people felt that also helped. And that collaboration helped in dealing with that porous border and the security arrangement that we had at that time. But why haven't we seen that sort of diplomatic collaboration between us and this country, visits from our own foreign affairs side to their side to have that collaboration?
Thank you very much for bringing up that topic as well. I even feel that there's a more superior way of handling these diplomatic issues, and that is being sought after by the Speaker of the House of Reps. The most potent way of resolving issues nowadays is what you call parliamentary diplomacy. Yes, we've been able to establish friendly groups with the Sahel region. So we have a House of Representative parliamentary group to interface with Niger, to interface with Chad, to interface with Mali, to interface with Burkina Faso. So if we ramp up on that, right, we'll be able to explain to our brothers in their parliament. The parliament is extremely strong in these countries, right? Be able to explain to them that this is how we should operate. These are the issues we have. France has left. You can help us with this. We can help up with that. If we need to summon the security apparatus chiefs together, we will, and provide a pathway whereby both countries can get win-win position. Then the executive can be doing that on their own part. But I am right on the same page with you that diplomacy can also do a lot in resolving or reducing the insecurity we have. But again, they're jihadists. They are driven by ideology, and at times these guys don't listen to anybody. But we can have joint operations with those countries to ensure that it's reduced to a barest minimum.
So still on the House, the northern governors have talked about pushing. You have mentioned the state policing. They have talked about pushing for that state policing and urged the lawmakers in National Assembly to back it up. Is that something that is likely to pass? Are we going to see a constitutional amendment in that regard?
Yes, I've always been a big fan of state police. And I like it to operate like the way universities operate, right? So if you need a state police, apply to an overarching authority. If you want to set up a university, you apply to Nigerian Union of NUC, Nigeria University Commission. They give you a license. So that license has condition precedence. So any state that is interested in setting up a state police should apply to maybe the Police Service Commission. They give them terms and conditions to where they would operate, right? And I think it's the way to go. But I do not think... But that would also
require legislative backing.
Yes, so that's where I'm going. I do not think the National Assembly would oppose any request for state police at this moment. Remember the tax bill, we had big issues when we started, but at the end of the day, we're all happy that Mr. President's vision has come to reality. Some of my members now say that, oh, wow, we can't believe we were resisting this, you know. So state police, too, it's a win-win for everybody. And people talk about funding, how do we fund or where do we get the personnel from, right? A lot of civil service are over-bloated at the moment, a lot of them. So you can incentivize them to move to state police. You know, there are various roles where they can fit into, yes, and there can also be recruitment. So the burden would not be as high as people expect it to be.
Are we likely to see that happen in the life cycle of this ongoing constitutional amendment?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's on the front burner for us at the House of Reps. And I also know that Senator Akpabio's Senate too would want to put it on the front burner, you know, so we're going to aggressively follow it. And we also have the backing of the governors, you know, to make it a reality. So I think Nigerians deserve to be policed. I think this country has so much potential. And I think a lot of people outside of Nigeria don't want us to succeed. I also believe that political opponents do not know where to draw the line, you understand? So there's a line that should be drawn. There's some things you should not do against your country. There's some things you should not encourage against your country, you understand? They've also said that there are some foreign collaboration with these people to make Nigeria a bit wobbly. Nigeria is the giant of Africa. If you see it rise, it's going to scare away a lot of countries. And the potential we have is so enormous. We have 220 million people, 70% of them are youthful. So if I reel out the potentials we have, and it comes to reality, a lot of countries will catch close and be jealous of us. So,
and that brings me to the question I really wanted to ask. You actually preempted me, which is the issue of those who finance terrorism. We've had that conversation, or those statements being made over and over again. Last administration said they had a list. Even in Dubai, we saw some of them, you know, also in court. And I'm wondering, at what point are we going to see this administration revisit that kind of list, or whatever, you know, names on the table, and then, you know, maybe prosecution, investigation ongoing, because it looks like we're dealing with symptoms and not the root cause?
I think those issues are handled, but they're not handled for public consumption. So a lot of prosecution is going on at the moment. I know that for a fact. And I recall a theory that my speaker said to us the other day. He said that when there was this cashless policy by the last CBN governor, that the crime rate, the kidnapping rate, the banditry rate reduced because there's no money within the circulation, right? So we need to also find out that, should we go back to that era whereby anybody who pays cash or who wants to procure service or whatever will use a card. So it's traceable to you, yes, and you're accountable for whatever you use your card to do, right? Having cash in the society and allowing people to purchase things as much also has its own downside, right? So that's for that as well. So we need to also refocus ourselves on how to make the Nigerian society more cashless than it is now.
So people have raised the eyebrow at the security summit being proposed by the Senate. There's a look, again, like you talked about, the parliamentary side of or parliamentary diplomacy, that if you're going to help, using parliamentary powers to help security, you should be reviewing the national defense policy, which many believe is outdated since 2006, and also the national security policy. But instead, the National Assembly is thinking of a what's it called, a security summit. The last one, the Ninth Assembly had one. Those resolutions are still not being implemented.
Yeah, I think we should focus on the resolutions, but I also think it's not out of place to have a fresher summit whereby you have fresher people who will bring fresher insights, because the day you stop learning is the day you die. So I always like dialogue. As long as the people who will be brought in will bring in value. So we'll just use it to refreshing the previous resolutions we have. Some of the resolutions have been implemented. Mr. President had an executive order that said all armed forces should farm, that any parcel of land that is vacant within the barracks or outside of it should be converted to farming. Now, the knock-on effect on that, if the army starts taking possession of their land and they start farming, number one, no insurgents will go there. Number two, they are known to be efficient and ruthless implementers of government ideas.
Reviewing the defense policy, is that something you would look at?
Yes, we're reviewing it already, and we have a very robust document that will seek to serve Nigerians in the fullness of time.
So we do have to leave it here. We're looking forward to how the very many things, or the strategy that this administration will put in place, also parliamentary side of it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Member House of Representatives, Honorable Babajimi Benson. Thank you for your time.
Representing Ikorodu Federal Constituency.
Thank you.
I want my people to hear that.
All right, thank you. I will take a break now. When we return, we'll turn our attention to the economic policies of the president. Stay with us.